Do you need to hear information about music no one's heard of in 20 years? Then we're your podcast.
We are.
Hang on, we haven't started yet.
I need stronger alcohol.
Greetings, Funketeers. It's been a minute, but we're back with a brand new episode of the Cacophony Sessions. My name is Dan, and do not adjust your listening devices, but we are interrupting your scheduled programming to do our top TV themes of all time. This was going to be a punk funk episode, but we tried and it didn't really work, so here we are. Some undeniably banging theme tunes instead.
It doesn't matter. If you're interested in punk funk, just listen to Rick James and fuck everyone else off because they were wrong. Next.
Yeah, pretty much. Before we do settle down for some Netflix and ill... maybe not. Let's do the who's and the news. So who we got on this evening? We've got three guests. And this evening we are joined by David.
Well, hello there, sir. Confucius say, egg roll, push it. Salt and pepper say, real good.
Okay. Alex?
Are you Wi-Fi? Because I feel like we're feeling a connection. Silence says it all. By the way, I don't like the idea with guests. I would like to say co-hosts, but go on. Yeah. I just feel devalued after that last statement now. I just said...
And the third co-host of the evening is Tom.
I'd like to say I like to experience new things, but I don't. I get bullied into experiencing new things under peer pressure.
That's certainly very true, and probably why you're on this podcast.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm on this podcast.
What has been happening that's been interesting? We're now in the beginning of August, and the restrictions in their legal form are gone. But life doesn't feel that different for me. I've just been recently double jabbed, so I'm still a bit apprehensive to return to normal. But I am going to be doing a big pub crawl in London, the Monopoly pub crawl next weekend. So we'll see how that goes. But what else interesting has been happening amongst the Cacophony Sessions community? Dave, what have you been doing?
Well, I've been loving the fact that restrictions have been eased up a little bit. I've also had my jabs. Still been wearing a mask when necessary. But I've been loving the fact that I've been able to DJ again. So I've done 3 DJ gigs. Had one last night, a really swish weddings venue.
Nice.
Trying to overlook the sea in a teepee. And I was just explaining to everybody how awesome it was for... I think it was major level staff. So some small boy in an ATV came and collected me and moved all my equipment to the stage, and I played an all vinyl 45 set of mainly 60s and 70s soul and new wave. So I had a fucking whale of a time, and earning money in the way I want to be earning it, which is playing music and doing my thing. So I've been loving it. Loving it.
Has it been any different DJing a gig to post-lockdown as opposed to how it used to be? Is there anything you've noticed that's specifically odd?
A little bit. You can tell people are hesitant. I'm like treading water. I don't know if anyone else is listening that's a DJ. You kind of like, when you're DJing a gig, which is basically a dance floor, you kind of like treading water until you get some people that are on the dance floor dancing, and then you'll knock it up a notch.
That's why I'm a DJ's dream, because I'm always first on the floor.
Yeah, well, that's how we met.
Yeah.
You in a polka dot shirt, like, fucking, this guy's awesome. He's making me look really good. But as soon as you get the nod, basically, you just got to step your game up, and it was maybe 3 waves, I would say, last night of like really good tunes and dancing, and then knocked off. I can see people are like more hesitant they would normally be. Like, normally, if everyone's completely like inhibitions to the wind, the first knock of dance will just lead on to 6 hours of dancing. But you see people are tailing off, having a sit down, going and talking to people, whatever. I don't think people are quite ready to get into the sort of Dionysus hedonism, which they were once used to, but it's slowly getting there. I mean, people haven't got masks on anymore, and they are going from 2 years of sitting at home doing bugger all, so they're loving the fact. I mean, how people were like coming up, shaking my hand at the end of the gig, like, "Oh, it's fucking amazing! It's awesome! I'm glad just to be out." People haven't had a party in 2 years. I mean, it's a medical students' social, which they've been waiting 2 years to have, which I DJed last night. So they were loving the fact that they got to have a party. So it was good to see them, and they're enthusiastic. But you can tell they're hesitant, you know.
Definitely, I think I'm feeling that myself.
In a lot of ways, they should be. I mean, it's like where I've worked the whole way through on the front lines, as it were, and this is the closest to home it's ever felt. Like, I've known more people in Plymouth have it in the last 2 weeks than I've known.
It's become a bit of a hotbed.
I mean, we've had more patients who have been ill or died as a result of COVID in the last month or two than we had to this point. So I'm doing less now than I was before, because it's the restrictions easing is good for businesses, don't get me wrong, but it's in this part of the world where we don't have the degree of herd immunity and where the vaccination rate in 18 to 29-year-olds is really low. The easing of restrictions is a mistake, and the government know that, and the reason they're doing it is because Boris Johnson's a cunt, right? And he doesn't want people bad-mouthing the government for saying we're putting the restrictions in. He wants businesses to do it instead. So when the numbers go up, he can go, well, it's not our fault, we told businesses to look after people. And if the numbers go down, he can go, oh, the numbers are going down because of things that we did.
It's more of a form of culture war, so all the unvaccinated people have almost become the people to blame. Well, and it's hard not to fall into that trap sometimes.
It's not the fault of the fact that 18 to 29-year-olds aren't vaccinated is the fault of a couple of things. It's the fault of 10 years' worth of education cuts, which means that your average 18 to 25-year-old doesn't know what the fuck mRNA is, which we learnt in fucking GCSE biology, which they don't anymore. So that's one, okay? Number two is that access to false information isn't properly policed, so they think mRNA is going to kill them. And three, because of how much the government have cut living standards, these people have to work 2 or 3 fucking jobs to make a living, so when the hell are they going to get time to get vaccinated?
Should I also think that it's like they know that the younger generation are probably going to be the hardest sell on vaccinations, but they know that their number one prerogative, after being obviously 2 years locked down in their prime, where they want to be out socialising, drinking, whatever, they're going to say, right, carrot and stick. If you want to go to nightclubs, you need to prove that you've done this thing we want you to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with vaccine passports.
I like the idea, but it's almost so we got sent at work, right? We have this rule where every time you do a treatment that involves the production of aerosol, you have to leave the room for half an hour and deep clean the damn thing. And we got told if somebody can prove they've had 3 negative tests within a 10-day period, you can treat them as if there's no aerosol. Now you find a way of proving that. It's not possible, and the idea of a vaccine passport is a great idea, but they haven't been record keeping properly when they've been giving the vaccine. So how the hell they're going to do that? I've got no idea.
It doesn't really mean anything, but yeah, I think it's more of this is what I'm saying to it. It's like I agree with them. I'm not saying don't have vaccine passports. I'm just saying I think it's a bit of a carrot and a stick for a generation they know is going to be difficult to crack the nut. Because as you say, they got misinformation left, right, and centre. They don't know what the fuck's going on. They know they're going to be probably the worst age brackets that are going to dig their heels in. So they're going to say, okay, you want to go out and drink a load of Jaeger bombs and finger bang slags in a club, you're going to have to get double jabbed, you can't.
So what I find interesting is I don't think that age group are the most difficult, because there's actually, they've only had it rolled out for a short period of time. I think it's actually 40 to 60-year-olds are actually the problem, because there's 30 to 40% of them who are still unvaccinated, and they've had the opportunity for a long time. So I think they're actually more of the problem. And again, it's
basically the core audience of that GB News.
Yeah, absolutely. It's these people who don't...
The American equivalent being Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's these people who believe that wearing a mask is an infringement of their human rights. It's not, okay? It's not an infringement. I get called a sheep for wearing a mask. And I'm like, and I said to somebody, so when you come to me and I do an operation and I've like, do you want me to not wear a mask? Shall I just breathe germs into your open wound?
One of the common things that people say is, I've done my own research, and I think that's the problem. We shouldn't be doing our own research. It should be down to the epidemiologists to do the research, and we should just follow what they say. Because I should point out that
when I do my own research, I have got a master's degree in public health.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If anyone's qualified, it's you. I'm not. Let's get back onto music, because we've kind of gone off topic drastically in the first 5 minutes.
Well, that's normal.
Which is standard, of course. But we are a music podcast. Tonight's theme is only tenuously music-based, because we're going to talk a lot about television shows as well. So what's come out musically? What have we been doing? Any projects? Tom, I know you were working on some electronica stuff.
Yeah.
Has that continued?
Not hugely. I mean, work's been horrendous because we're just people being pinged left, right and centre and having to pick up the slack. So I haven't done too much. I've got a new band on the go, which I'm playing bass in, it's quite interesting. So that's been going pretty well. And I'm still trying to listen to lots of new records. Although it's funny because I think you're going to say that this year is finally kicking into gear musically, whereas for me it's sort of tailed off a little bit.
I'm going to say it hasn't started for me yet, but
yeah, I know. So like the beginning of this year, there were some great like experimental rock releases and good indie rock, and there's still some good stuff coming out, but there's not quite the plethora of it that there was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
But I think if you're looking from a sort of a more pop perspective, the pop artists are starting to release now, and it's so like I think you were saying on our group chat, like there are several album of the year contenders for you that have come out recently, whereas I didn't like any of them.
I've kind of mellowed on all of them since. All of the albums that I've listened to so far this year, there hasn't been one that has been my utmost favourite that I've gone back to. There's been quite some really good stuff, but nothing's there yet.
I have kept up with the suggestions you've been making because I've been listening to your opinions because you did that crazy kind of project. You're going to listen to 5 albums, whatever time period it was. So I thought, okay,
5 a week.
This guy can listen to 5 albums a week, and if he tells me something's good, I'll check it out. And then he can filter the 50% of the shit I wouldn't normally listen to. But I've picked up a couple of them, and because I'm still delivery driving, I get the whole day to listen to whatever the hell I want to, radio or podcast wise. So there's been a few things which I've checked out and I liked, but I'm still waiting on an official release of Donda, which is Kanye West's released.
I haven't listened to the bootleg version yet.
Well, it's not really bootleg. He's charging £500 a head for listening parties in LA, which is what he did with...
And then it's being recorded at the listening party and released...
Getting a
Zoom,
for me. Yeah, and then just chucking up the best quality rip they can. Obviously, yeah, it's a Zoom. But it's still, like, massively religious-based, and, of course, he has his, like, 4,000-acre farm in Ohio, wherever the hell it is, and he's still doing his Sunday service, and he's broken up from his missus, and he's basically got in touch with his father and really gone fucking 10 to leather with the whole faith thing. So it's going to be another faith-based album, which I'm fine with. Like, I buy gospel records all the fucking time. I love
Jesus Walks is an all-time classic as well.
Exactly. I mean, like Billy Preston, Alicia Mayers, The Fords, The Undeniable Truth. Like, I fucking love gospel and faith-based music. Just the fact that it is talking about something I don't agree with doesn't bother me. The lyrics, melody, and our gospel choir, if that 40-piece, perfectly homogenized chorus doesn't touch you to your soul, you're dead inside. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or not.
Yeah, completely understand. I'm not a religious person at all, but a lot of the music I listen to is, well, you've got Al Green, Prince. They're heavily into religion and gospel sounds. Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. It's all prevalent in the kind of music that I love. So totally on board with somebody who decides to go on a religious tangent.
And it's done Kanye West a world of good, because his ego and opinions were out of the fucking sky, and he's now started to have a little bit of... I watched an interview with Zane Lowe with him.
Humility.
Recently. Yeah, a little bit of humility. He's just like... People are questioning...
Never want humble Kanye.
No, I've got... But anything, like 1% is in the right direction.
Yeah, I guess. But I do love him when he's an asshole.
They're pressing him on the religious views, and he's saying, you know, I'm a recent convert, I'm not a theologian, and things like that. And he's... You know, he's gone for a rough breakup, and he's bought this farm, and he's got re in touch with his father, he was estranged from, and he seems to be going in the right way, man. You know, 'cause I don't really think his relationship with the Kardashians and that whole reality TV thing did him any good. He's got mental health issues. He needs to concentrate on his relationships, which are stable, which is him and his father, when his mother's now passed away, and his faith. And just concentrate on what makes him happy, which is his kids, his faith, his father, and his land, which he has. So for me, he's going on the right direction. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to, hopefully, Stevie Wonder will be dropping his album that he teased.
I don't think it's coming this year, man. I can't see any definitive release dates or...
No, I'm hearing absolutely nothing, which is absolutely breaking my heart, and I don't know why he teased us.
He's not put anything out since 2005 in terms of albums, and I just think that it just keeps being pushed back, and it's been years now.
Well, he released those 2 singles last year, which we have spoken about, which were both Black Lives Matter, racist, apocryphal kind of lashback records, which... were great, and I fucking love them, but I was really hoping that he was going to have kind of a Prince type revival, because it's taken him so long to break out of his record deal that he had. I was hoping he was going to have this like massive treasure trove of just bangers that he was going to release, that he's been sitting on for 15 years.
There's not that many in Stevie's back catalogue. I think he shelved the Fulfilling This' second finale project and then released Songs of the Key of Life instead. I don't think there's that many. Prince has got albums worth. For every album he did release, there's an album he didn't. Whereas Stevie's probably got about... I know
Prince
2 or 3.
is, you know, on a different level, but I just hope that there was 2 albums in
just trying to manage your expectations, buddy.
I know. I just like Stevie's, for me, my number 1 artist. And anything the motherfucker releases,
it's in there.
I just want to listen to, and I was really hoping that the album was coming this year.
His quality control was definitely... I would say Stevie Wonder's quality control is better than Prince's.
I don't know. No, I would disagree.
Yes.
I'm going to say it now. Like, I'm not a huge fan of either artist. I'll be honest. But Songs in the Key of Life is one of probably only a handful of double albums I can happily sit and listen to the whole way through. And I don't think I can say that about a single Prince album. So for me, I like Prince. I said to you once when we were pissed, I said, Prince has made one good album. And you said, which one? And I said, you take his 12 best songs and put them together and you've got one good album.
I completely disagree. I think Prince's run in the 80s is superior to Stevie's run in the 70s. I love Songs of the Key of Life, and I think it is a better album than Sign of the Times by the skin of its teeth, though. I think they're both insane. Stevie kind of really fell off a cliff in the mid-80s.
It's because he couldn't see it.
Oh no.
To this day, he's never put out a record that's told me that he's convincingly back since the mid-80s. Prince, Welcome to America, the brand new record that's come out that he recorded 10 years ago. There are still at least 3 or 4 genuinely brilliant Prince songs on every album that he ever put out. I don't think that it's a masterpiece of an album. It's not in my running for album of the year. I love it for being a Prince album, but I don't think it would have made any waves if it came out 10 years ago.
I want to see how biased you are. Has Prince made an outright shite album?
Yeah.
Yes.
The album New Power Soul came out in 98, isn't great. There's still 2 songs I really love on it, one of which is the hidden track at the end, Wasted Kisses.
Only 2?
Yeah, the rest of the tracks are just generic pop funk and it's not very inspired. I think he knew that, and that's why it's credited to the New Power generation instead of Prince.
I talk about fobbing off the blame.
A little bit. So yeah, that's not a good album by anyone's standards, not just a Prince standard. It is, if it was released by anyone else, it probably wouldn't even have 2 songs that
So for everyone else, it's like a 2 out of 10 album. For a Prince fan, it's an 8 out of 10.
It pushes it up to like a 3.5 max.
Ooh, that's bad.
Now, there we go. Unbiased. Al, what have you been up to? Anything musical?
I've listened to a few albums, for once. I actually, the new Cannibal Corpse album, I know I mention them a lot for some reason, that came out in April, and it's fucking slaps. It's really, really good.
Still a corpse grinder man, then?
Oh, always gonna be a corpse grinder man. So I've got to look at my phone because I keep forgetting what the bloody hell the album's called. I actually looked it up in anticipation. Violence Unimagined.
You thought you'd imagined all the violence there was to imagine? There's some more.
No, there is more.
Oh shit, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I could use a cock as a fucking fire poi.
Yeah. I also got really into this band, this like New York hardcore band called Mind Force. I'd never heard of them until recently.
Yeah,
Only been around since 2014. But I bought their album Excalibur, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's if I'd listened to it the year it came out, it might be in my album of the year, like at the moment. But I listened to it now, and it came out like 5 years ago, so
that's current for you.
That's very current for me. So I've been really enjoying that. I've recently got back into Rage Against the Machine.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just went through just a massive phase of just listening to all the albums.
What's your favourite?
It's probably the first album, the self-titled. I think the second album is quite underrated.
There are 3 albums I really like. Sorry, I totally forgot. Kevin Drew's new solo album, because he was the guy behind Broken Social Scene. Year of No Light, because it's really heavy. And Fly Pan Am, because, as always, they're really interesting. Right, there we go. Carry on.
In terms of new stuff, I haven't really got much. I listened to the new Prince album. The new single by Silk Sonic is Skate, and it's great. I love it. Our long lost episode where I talked in length about how much I love Leave the Door Open.
Thank God it's lost.
By Silk Sonic. I think it's an incredible soul singer. I think this one, me and you, Tom, were saying it doesn't feel as authentic.
I just realised I've got red paint under my nose because I've been painting. That's all else I've been doing. I've been just painting my Warhammer army. That's all I spent any time doing at the moment. And, my girlfriend had COVID as well, so we had a COVID victim for a week and a half. Yeah, it looked bloody awful.
Is she okay now?
Yeah, she's fine now. But good. I've decided that I'm immune because I didn't get shit.
You've decided?
I've decided I'm just hard as nails and I just can't get it now. That's it.
On the tail end of new music, the rapper that I've been telling you to listen to for fucking ages is finally signed to Sonic Music, and he's going to be releasing his debut album. Debut as in with a record producer, not he's released
pronounced
multiple.
Debut.
Okay, sorry. A debut. Not what he's released on SoundCloud, because he's got loads of other albums on SoundCloud which are fucking amazing. But Koji Radical is a rapper that I really need to big up. So his album is going to be coming through with Sony Island, basically same shit.
I've been listening to a lot of grime recently. I've gone back and attempted to, because I was quite sceptical of grime at the time, but I didn't even know that would rhyme. Still going. I've gone back and I've listened to some MJ Cole stuff.
Oh, I fucking love MJ Cole, man.
Dizzy Rascal's album.
Yeah, Boy in the Corner is fucking incredible.
Even I like that album a lot.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Mercury nominees for this year is Getz. Getz is an old school rapper, an amalgamation short of Ghetto, which was his first name when he came out in the grime scene. Was around when I was around in fucking South London in the late 2000s, but really fucking good. and his album is Mercury nominated this year. But he should have been nominated fucking years back. Word of Mouth was an absolute banger. But yeah, Koji Radical's on the up and up. Also, Lil Sims. I think she's probably going to win the Mercury nomination, but I hope gets it. But yeah, keep an eye on Koji. He's got an album called 23 Winters, which is about his father who came from Nigeria, and talking about he's 23 years old and how he could never have the same experiences that his father's had. Grew up in a really tough time during the African apartheid, basically. But yeah, Koji Radical is a fucking banger. His album's going to come out this year as well, so that'll be on my album of the year list.
I've only just seen the Mercury Prize list's been announced. I want Black Country New Road to win it, obviously. But Arlo Parks and Mogwai are up for it as well, so that's good. It's quite a nice list.
I've been listening to a lot of 2000 stuff. As I said, I went back and listened to a lot of grime, some garage as well. But I think the main thing that came from that 2000 session was how much I've been an idiot about the Arctic Monkeys. I kind of just dismissed them very early on. I actually picked up on their most recent release, which was Hotel Tranquility Base & Casino, and I really liked that album. So I went back and I listened to some of their earlier stuff, and fuck me, every single one of their albums is great.
I love the first one.
A lot of time they were misplaced. They were kind of like... They predated the kind of new rock and roll thing that happened in the early 2000s by like 6 months, which is unfortunate for them. And they kind of got pegged on the late Britpop scene, which didn't do them any favours.
Oh, no, I completely disagree, because they started off being lumped in with the bloody Libertines and those sorts of bands, and it was fucking great. Like, I remember being at university at the time. I mean, I got given their first single, Fake Tales of San Francisco. That paid my rent for 6 months, that single. I got given that, and they were gigging and around at the same sort of time as bands like the Libertines and that sort of really exciting indie rock scene that was going on in Britain. It's just that none of the rest of you knew anything about it.
I think they're okay. I've got nothing against them, but when they first came round, there were like 100 indie bands.
2002, 2003 kind of had that new rock and roll Enemy drive, which like British Sea Power were a part of.
Yeah, I loved that band.
The Hot Heat, all the kind of like early 2000s bands that we've covered, they kind of got lumped in with, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're really the same sort of ilk as them. I really like those bands that came out with the new wave rock and roll stuff with the UK in the early 2000s, but I think they had more longevity than a lot of them, and they got dismissed early on. But I do really like them.
I just wonder who is responsible for the Kaiser Chiefs becoming popular. I need someone to blame for that.
The Enemy.
Oh, fuck that magazine then. They have no idea what they're talking about. That band is shite.
Every single one of their songs has a bit of Oh, can't think of any more words, so we'll just trail off with a football chant. There you go.
Kaiser Chiefs' first single, I've got their very first single released.
You did this!
It's you!
Well, it was a tiny little label based in Oxford, I think, who had a webzine as well called Drowned in Sound. And they launched quite a few bands. So, like, I know Martha Wainwright's first singles and albums all came out through Drowned in Sound. This Girl, does anybody remember them? They were Drowned in Sound.
I do remember them.
Yeah, Jennifer Ever, and a few other bands that all started off on Drowned in Sound records and then went on and did other things afterwards. So, yeah, I think I'm going to blame it on Drowned in Sound. But yeah, that was a really, really exciting time. And I don't think Arctic Monkeys got dismissed. I mean, they were trumpeted as the best of them. Their first album sold...
Yeah, they were the
their
biggest
first
one.
album sold gazillions of copies.
Maybe dismissed is the wrong word. I'm saying they got lumped in with... I think they should supersede that.
My standing on it as a 19-year-old in 2006, I thought, oh, it's just another Oasis. They're just a bit more northern than Oasis. And I just completely dismissed it. And that's how naive I was at the time, to quote another song that was a popular song at the time.
Well, plus, you also got to remember as well, like, there was... I mean, I think I might have been guilty of it myself. Like, I quite liked the singles, but they were being touted as the best rock band in Britain at the time. Like, it wasn't like, have you heard this band? They're quite good. Like, I was being told, this band is massive. They're on the telly all the time. This band is amazing. So when you finally listen to it, a bit like, you're already a little bit of, well, fuck you, because you can't, like, I don't want to be told who's good or who isn't. And I was told they were very good. And yeah, they're okay, to be honest.
Completely reappraised them. I think they're excellent. Brian Storm, how did I miss that? Do I Want to Know is my favourite, though, from 2013. What a blues riff that is. It's produced by Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age.
Or the Desert Sessions, if you're weird.
I'm weird.
It's got a more Americanised sound, and as we know from this podcast, I prefer American sounds, I think, in my music. And I really love that album. So, yeah, Arctic Monkeys at the moment are my new favourite band, kind of. Anybody else got anything they've been listening to?
Really From. I'm still listening to Really From. It came out this year and I listened to it for my homework, and it's rapidly getting into my top 10 of all time. I know Dan listened to it and was like, it would have been a 9, but I hate the last track.
Sounded like a demo and I wasn't into that.
Oh, nothing worse than that, is there, when you think you got a clean sweep.
It's like Spiderland by Slint in that it's a great album. I listened to it the whole way through and I was really impressed. And then the last track on the album is 15 minutes of just a quarry recorded at night. And I was like, they are going to bring a song in over this, aren't they? No, I listened to the full 15 minutes and nothing happened. Literally nothing happens in that song. 9 out of 10 though, pretty good other than that.
I'm going to the pub a little bit with my man, so we like putting on Thin Lizzy, Dire Straits, kind of like pub guitar music, like Never Go Back Again by Fleetwood Mac, 70s stuff, Doobie Brothers, Jail Jivis Band, stuff like that. That's what I've been listening to recently. And then if I'm just chilling on my own, I'll put like Neil Young on.
Good man.
We're going to talk about TV themes this evening. We've each picked 4 that we think are our favourites. This episode is probably going to be best listened to if you stop it and find it on YouTube. Some of these themes are from shows that I haven't seen, and there's probably themes out there that some of the other guys aren't aware of. There's no rating system in place tonight. We've been away for a while, so we just want to have some fun, recommend some really banging pieces of music that accompany some TV themes, and probably get into a few arguments about the quality of the TV show itself. That's not off the table. So if you like TV, this one might be good for you as well. Kicking off proceedings with our first TV theme nomination is the earliest on our list, and this one was nominated by Alex. It's going to be known. You might not have to pause the podcast to listen to this because it's the original Scooby-Doo theme from 1969, originally recorded by Larry Marks for the first 2 seasons, I believe. It's the most famous one. So, Al, why do you think this is the greatest TV theme?
Well, I don't think it's the greatest, but when picking 4...
It's in the top 4.
Well, I suppose
When
so.
you're sitting cross-legged in front of the television as a chubby child with milk and cookies.
In 1969.
Yeah, it was one of those shows where, to be honest, when I was growing up, I used to like Scooby-Doo until I saw it, like, on 2 hours every day. So I actually, towards the end, I got so sick of watching Scooby-Doo. But there's no doubt that everyone knows the theme song. Like, no one can deny it's a bad theme song. Everyone could hum it. Like, as soon as you can hear it, it's just Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
It's just an earworm, and I think it's perfect for the show that follows. It sounds like it could have been done by the Monkees with the contemporary sound, and it's really catchy. So yeah, what more do you want from your Scooby-Doo theme?
I don't think the original's the best version, though. The Best Coast version is the best version. I'm going to say this now because it will come up a lot in later ones. The difference between me and a lot of the other guys in this group is that I didn't grow up with a TV. So I don't have the nostalgia for these shows.
He was raised on fine wine, cheese and butler service.
No butler, but there was fine wine and cheese.
I'm afraid, young sir, I don't have the Scooby-Doo episode for you, but I can transcribe it for you.
I'm just going to point out it was cheap red wine, probably nicked out of Summerfield, but there was cheese. There was no butler. I think the first time I saw Scooby-Doo, I would have been about 13, 14, and so I found the show really dull. I don't have a nostalgia for the show. There are sort of a couple of categories in these TV themes. There's TV themes that we've picked that are sort of instantly recognisable as a show and that everybody knows and they're completely ubiquitous. And this falls into that category, and it is. But
that's basically all of my picks.
Yeah, but I wouldn't listen to it as a piece of music.
When I got taught music theory in university, they brought up the Addams Family for diminished chords. Like Scooby-Doo's of the same sort of ilk, but it doesn't really have any particularly obtuse musical stylings. It's just a bit of an earworm.
Yeah, it's just a bit of an earworm, and it's great. And like, admittedly, the new Simple Plan version is utter garbage. I had a little bit of time, so I thought I'd listen to a few of the different versions. And like, Best Coast's version of the Scooby-Doo theme is great because it adds a bit of a pop punk vibe while maintaining the original melody. The Simple Plan version tries to take that sort of pop punk, emo punk slant on it, but doesn't keep any of the original catchiness and just ends up being rubbish.
You can't make an emo rock song about a missing dog.
Well, the dog isn't missing. Oh yeah,
the song is called Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? So he's clearly missing at the point in which they've written the song.
He's not missing, the people want him.
And probably high. So you can't turn that into an emo rock masterpiece because, I mean, it's just not a song that fits.
Just an incredible detective, but unfortunately he needs THC-laced snacks to get to any of his deductions.
Oh yeah, Shaggy was on something, wasn't he?
Oh, hey Scoob, we're just going to roll over here and get high while everyone else does the legwork.
I genuinely believe that one of the greatest movie performances in history is Matthew Lillard's portrayal of Shaggy, because he is so cartoonish and is so similar to how Shaggy was animated. It's unbelievable. It's a great, really underrated movie performance. The films may have been a pile of hot cat shit, but the performance itself was really good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he pretty much nailed it, and he looked the part and everything, yeah. But I think we can all agree that the Scooby-Doo theme is just pretty good. I guess, I don't know why I particularly picked that one, because I guess I was just doing a lot of YouTubing, just trying, what about this show, what about this show? There were a few shows where I didn't include because there was just a bit of talking at the start, and the actual music itself was like 15 seconds long. Like, I wasn't going to put the Count Duckula one in. Like, in the heart of Transylvania, that's a class one. But it was just, I having re-listened to it, I was like, there's actually like 8 seconds of actual
Ducky!
music.
Well, what I've realised from this, and it won't be so evident in the songs that we've actually picked, is that I think that as a 34-year-old man, I realised how blessed I was in my childhood by banging tunes in like late 80s to early 90s cartoons. We'll talk about some, but I mean there are some that aren't on the list. I nearly put DuckTales on.
Yeah, I mean it's like fucking. They actually put effort into it. Kenny Loggins did fucking Pooh Corner, whatever the Winnie Pooh spin-off, and it's like. They did, like, there's some really heavyweight 80s artists that actually went in with 80s cartoons. So.
We will move on to another song, but we'll stay with that theme, I think, because, Dave, you've picked a theme tune from Jace and the Wheeled Warriors, which was recorded by Shuki Levy, I think it's pronounced, in 1985, the soundtrack to cartoon, clearly a kid's cartoon. I've never seen the show, so you're going to have to film
I remember the show from back in the day. It was one of those shows where, like, around the time when I was a kid and Transformers was around, and anything where there's robots in it got pretty much airtime.
It kind of fell between He-Man, Thundercats, Transformers, and then, like, slightly later in the day, which would have been like Pirates of Dark Water and Shark Attack and Biker Mice from Mars and that kind of thing. It fell in between those kind of
Biker Mice from Mars.
But it was in the day when like a cartoon was basically just a massive advert for a toy campaign. But I think there was either wasn't one or it fell flat on its arse. I don't even know. I haven't researched that. But the theme tune alone is like a fucking beautiful example of just real electro power 80s pop. And if anybody dropped that particular fucking theme tune when I was in a club, I just throw all the furniture everywhere and just ruin the entire place. It's fucking hypes me up. I don't know what the fuck it is about it. It's just the power chords and the harmonisation and the 80s-ness of it just fucking pumps me to fuck.
Plus, like, the synth line on it is really good as well. It's very catchy.
My notes literally say shit 80s synth power ballad.
Yeah, that's all you need. But the best example of... You find me a better version of that absolutely stinking genre and then I'll buy you a pint. I bet you can't.
Well, no, because it's a stinking genre. Like, it's probably a very good example of... But it's a genre that... It's that whole... It is... As you say, like, the genre of TV show you're talking about, they all had this sort of... And actually, there's another song on this list that has the same sort of style in it. It's almost like Mattel, who recreated kids' TV, sort of decided that it was going to be synth power ballads were going to be the way forward, and that was what everybody did. And this is probably a good example of that. But I wouldn't want to listen to it out of the context
to me
of
in a club,
a kids' TV show.
Is going to get all their drinks and life paid for, and I'm going to have a really heavy bar bill because the lot's getting trashed. I will not be able to control myself when someone drop that in a club.
Just to correct Tom a little bit, I know what you mean, 100%, but they're not power ballads. They're wicked songs, that's what they are.
It's the same sort of idea as what the power metal type stuff started doing with like Ed Guy and bands like that in the early 2000s. It's that sort of it's not a ballad, but it's that sort of, I don't know what you call it, but whatever it is, I don't like it.
They call it rock and roll, Tom.
Whatever it is, I do like it.
I personally think it's awesome. Great pick, I think.
Great song, but I have no special fondness for it because I'd never even heard of the TV show.
When someone showed it to me, I was like, yeah, I like Alex, I can remember this. But it's the theme tune, man. The fucking theme song. It gets in and it gets out and it gives you a fucking tiger uppercut to the ball bag. And that's all I want.
Groin-grabbingly good.
Now for something completely different from Tom. You probably recognise the show. It's a big hit on Netflix. It's Orange is the New Black. And the theme song to that is You've Got Time by Regina Spektor, who is no relation to Phil Spector. It was written specifically for the show in 2013. I'm not really that familiar with it, but it's a good song.
It's my favourite song on this list.
It's okay.
I've loved Regina Spektor since her first record, which came out, oh God, I would have been at university. And she was a really exciting artist at the time. And there was this sort of like angry folk scene in New York in the sort of mid 2000s. And it was sort of folk punk thing going on, and she was doing that. And then she did a pop album that's got the track Better. It's just amazing, and she's this fantastic pianist. I remember watching the TV show and not loving the TV show that much, but just absolutely loving the theme song. And I think that's my approach to this. Was I don't have nostalgia for TV shows in the same way, so I just decided to pick songs that I liked. And as soon as you said TV themes, I was like, well, I love this song. It's a song that I would listen to on my Spotify or whatever, not because I like the song, not because I like the TV show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you sound a bit like Patrick Bateman.
So
you've picked songs that you think may associate with like nostalgia, but you don't have any of that yourself. So what would other people think are good songs?
Tom listened to the music and then realised he simply was not there.
I realised after I'd submitted my list that there were several tracks that I missed out. For example, Sigur Rós did Hoppípolla, which was on Planet Earth.
You can't then track down bands and see what theme tunes they've done. That's bullshit.
Everybody knows that Sigur Rós Hoppípolla from Planet Earth. It's how Sigur Rós got famous.
No, you've clearly searched bands you like and gone, oh, has Sigur Rós done any theme tunes?
I have watched Orange is the New Black. and I knew I liked the song. But like, I know George Fenton's theme for Blue Planet should have been on this list, and I should have put that on there. And Radiohead and Hans Zimmer did the second series of Blue Planet, and that was great.
Your favourite guy.
And the best one that I should have put on here was Fever Ray's theme from Vikings, and I forgot all of them, but this one would definitely have been on the list because it's a song that I absolutely love, because by an artist that I absolutely love. And I do encourage people to check out her back catalogue. I cannot remember what the album's called. Begin to Hope is the really good album. But this is her doing a sort of a PJ Harvey, and it's great.
I've seen the odd episode of Orange is the New Black. So my girlfriend watched it, so every now and again I'd catch the odd episode when she was watching it. And I do remember like thinking, the theme is quite catchy and quite good. But I think a few choices in this. It's okay if you go with I like this band and I happen to know they make theme music. I personally, even if I like the band or I like the song, it doesn't always make for a good TV theme.
No,
you know, and this one does, but there are one or two on this list I was a little bit like, oh right, okay, I didn't even know that was them. You know, like
interestingly, I love the song. I do think it just about works as a TV theme. I think it works. It actually works better as a song than it works as a TV theme.
I find with this song, especially as a theme, I find that every time I heard it, I disliked it more.
Oh, I didn't find that.
I just find I think after a while, after like the 20th time listening to, I was like, oh. God,
well, it's kind of the problem, isn't it? Especially if any show is American, you know it's going to be repeated like 9 million times, so the theme tune might as well be a fucking banger, and hence why I'll bring it up now. Martin's picks, which unfortunately can't be with us this evening, included The Wire and Sopranos, which are two bangers by Tom Waits and Alabama 3,
and
which
I can listen to.
One
is amazing,
over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and have absolutely no problem with. And the fact that even The Wire, every single series slightly tweaked the song, was even more beautiful in my eyes.
And I think the other thing that needs to be said is that actually often the TV... So there are several shows, for example, the perfect example of this is Grey's Anatomy, but if you want a UK version, Hollyoaks is a good example of this, weirdly, where the theme is crap, but the tracks they use in the episodes are amazing. Like, I mean, Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, Hollyoaks has kind of got that thing a bit like Skins, where they've always like prioritised young editors, writers, and media producers. So they've always been like, although it's a shit show, they've been at the cusp of like, they had that kind of like text message thing come up on screen before I saw it anywhere else. It was in like Memento and other like highbrow films. Whether you like or don't like that technique is beyond the pale. But they were kind of, I first saw it on Hollyoaks, and they were always like kind of at the cusp of new media techniques. So it was, whereas the show is kind of, in my eyes, so rubbish. They have really good media production techniques, because they kind of got the best from Goldsmiths and stuff like that, because they're looking to hire young talent.
The next one is our first instrumental of the evening. It's a piece of music that I've no doubt that many of you will already know. It is the Game of Thrones theme.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
If Tom has a problem with this, can we just like block him from the rest of the
I think you're going to have to block him now then.
Composed by Ramin Djawadi.
I do have a problem with it, but it's not the problem.
How? It's so good.
There are some theoretical things about this that I quite like, okay? So, for example, I really like the fact that the composer of it, the producers of the TV show were in dialogue with the composer when they came up with it, and he uses some chord progressions in it, going from minor to major, to try and demonstrate the intricacies of the show, let's say.
How do you enjoy music? I always wondered, like, the fact that you listen to that theme and that's the first thing you thought, like, oh, they had good interactions. Who gives a fuck? Did it sound good? Like, do you analyse everything like this?
But the thing is, bearing in mind that I grew up on classical music, as a piece of classical music, this is horse shit.
It wasn't written by Beethoven, was it?
Oh man, I'm loving this. Can we have some popcorn?
Who gives it sounded good. Everyone knows it. Everyone likes it, like except like you, because it doesn't follow. It's a bit too like stock.
In the blue corner, weighing 170 pounds.
The orchestration is boring as fuck, right? It doesn't. It's everything follows the one melody. There's no harmonisation. There's no interesting rhythms. You put this next to Stravinsky's Firebird Suite, and it's a piece of shit, right? Like, I don't hate the melody, right? It's quite a nice melody, but it's been legit. My problem with this piece is it's been legitimised, but as a piece of classical music, because you put it on Classic FM, and I listen to Classic FM at work because
they put Lord of the Rings on there as well. I'm sure you like that.
Yeah, I know. I fucking hate that as well. And the thing is, one day this came on directly after Goretzky's Second Symphony, Second Movement.
Yes, equal and if not better. Move on. Next subject.
It's nowhere near. It's nowhere near as good. He died. He died after his third one.
I preferred his mixtape.
So it was his second movement of his Second Symphony. And the thing is, that's an amazing piece of music with great vocals, and it's really, really well done. As a piece of music, this isn't as good as. It's not as good as most of the pantheon of classical music. Like,
are we going to apply that criteria to every song we listen to? Because
Scooby-Doo, there are better 60s rock songs. Like, there's, like, we're on about, as a theme.
Well, fucking yeah.
I think we've taken very different approaches to this, because all the tracks that I've picked for this are tracks that I actually would enjoy listening to out of the context of a TV show.
I'd enjoy listening to Jason Weir Warriors. I told you, you're getting chinned if you're in the club with me.
As your 1 minute intro to the TV show, yeah, fine. As a 3-minute extended piece on Classic FM, hell fucking no.
This is the Hans Zimmer argument all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, I have the same problem with Hans Zimmer.
I did a degree in music theory and did my dissertation on Handel's Zorba the Greek, and then instigated a 7 or 8 row orchestra musically paced on like staves for the end of my degree. So I also understand how classical music works, but I also understand that I want to fucking windmill to Jason and Wheel Warriors and pick up change and down pints. I'm able to separate the two.
Can we go back? So you don't like the Lord of the Rings music either?
I don't particularly love the Lord of the Rings music. I like it better than this.
Some of the classical producers obviously are geniuses, and the way that they've approached music theory is unsurpassed. But to relate that to modern times and in pop music, and even more defamation into a television theme tune made by a pop musician, is just such a degradation. It's like saying, let's make a fine wine out of my arse water.
I'm sorry, Dave. So he's not a pop musician. He is a composer, and he is a composer for film. And this piece is now being. My problem with this piece is it's now being held up as.
All right. Well, let's cut to the chase and say, who do you name as your top 3 contemporary classical producers? Let's just have that. No, this is a musical podcast and we need to have them, because that's the crux of the argument. Let's have them. Yes, we have to have them right now to appease Thomas.
Steve Reich, Nico Muhly, Philip Glass.
Perfect. Next one.
The reason why I've selected Game of Thrones, I think, is due to the cultural impact that it's had. So I remember I watched it with my former housemate, Jabs, and we used to just mime violins and sing the theme music at the top of our lungs, and no other show you would really ever do that to. But it's just everybody knows it. Like Al said, it's one of those pieces of music, you know it's Game of Thrones, even if you've never seen the show. Now, my thoughts on the show are, well, the show is not worth watching after season 5, probably.
No, it's all still well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it till the end.
For me to forgive it, no, it was atrocious. Especially from season 7 onwards.
Well, I tell you what, though, a good way of like saying if a theme's quite good or not is if it's like over a minute. So like if this one's like a minute and a half or whatever, do you skip it? Like if you've got it recorded or like whatever, do you skip the theme? So I don't think there's many people who skip the Game of Thrones theme.
I do.
I think most people just sat through it in its entirety.
One of the ones that I've also picked on this show, I can testify to not skipping because I'm currently watching it, but we'll get on to that.
That's actually, when it comes to think of it, that's because you mentioned the Sopranos one. For example, I love the Sopranos, but I've skipped the intro every time. It's a minute. Well, I actually timed it once because it feels like it takes forever. It's 1 minute 13, and I quite like the song, but I skip it every time, which is why it should be on this list.
I think I skip it on The Sopranos. I think I love the song. It's not such a banger that it warrants a repeat listen. So if I'm on a Sopranos binge, say I watch 3 episodes in a row, I'd probably watch the theme music on the first episode, and then on 2 and the second and third that I watched that evening, I'd probably skip it.
So Game of Thrones, amazing classical music.
Or not.
We'll go somewhere different. We'll go back to one of Al's picks.
Hey.
It's instrumental as well. This one is by a band called The Refreshments from 1999. It's the theme tune to King of the Hill. It's called Yahoos and Triangles.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a theme here between milk, cookies, obesity, and sitting cross-legged in front of the children in front of the television. That was supposed to be the other way around. But all of your selections are cartoons. So.
Well, King of the Hill I didn't like when I was a kid. I liked that when I was at uni and I was just stoned the whole time.
Which is basically the same vibe.
Still fat guy in front of a couch. But instead of
joint instead of milk and cookies.
So you became Boomhauer.
Copious amounts of dominoes. But yeah, this is a good
I
song.
love King of Hill.
When I think of theme music, like I think I have taken a very different approach to, like, I don't know, for Tom, for example, like, where if I just think it's only like 30 seconds long, if that, but it's very recognisable. Like, you can't doubt it's a pretty catchy little tune. If anyone listens to it, no, that's a King of the Hill theme tune. It's kind of like, I should have probably put The Simpsons in here because it's the same principle, where it's recognisable and it's just good. Everyone likes it. It's instantly recognisable, but I just happen to prefer King of the Hill. So
that's actually what I wrote in my notes. It was like there's a with this particular theme. I mean, I've only seen about 4 episodes of King of the Hill, and I wasn't that into it. But I actually wrote, if you're going, it's that sort of punky bluegrass thing. But I wrote, like, from the same era, you've got The Simpsons, you've got, like, South Park, Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, all equally as good.
And all of them, like, touch bases with genres that I quite like rockabilly and fucking, like...
Third Rock from the Sun. What a banger that is.
That's quite good, yeah.
But, like, Misfits basically come into that category to an nth degree. They're the Americana, and they're short tracks, and they're kind of based in sci-fi and fantasy, and like I really rate that genre of kind of early 90s disenfranchised punk kids, which King of the Hill sort of sums up for me. And like Townes Von Zondit, I think the same sort of band, forgive my pronunciation, but I think they're like end credits on Big Lebowski, but they're like a country band, but like a really morose kind of vibe. But yeah, like country music has a really great side, which a lot of people, whenever you talk to people about music, you will have, especially in this country, people come to you and say, I love every fucking genre except for country music. And then I normally come up with 2 or 3 country songs that make them fucking change their mind. And Townes Von Zondit is one of them.
Townes Van Zandt is.
Yeah, they're fucking great. And there's multiple other, obviously, country artists which are incredible. Like heartbreaking, completely, like, soul weavers with poetry. So this is touching upon all of those sort of things. So I love fucking King of the Hill, and I think that country music has a place in everybody's heart. And if you don't agree with that, then it's going to creep up on you at some point in life, and you're going to look a little bit silly.
It was a good show. I don't think there's one bad episode.
I'm not quite sure it's as good as Beethoven, though.
What, as in the dog?
No, just classical music by Beethoven.
I'm not actually a big Beethoven fan either, I should add. Like, I appreciate the genius, it's just not for me.
No Game of Thrones.
We'll talk about something else. So we will go with another one of your picks, Tom, because this is, we've talked about this show, alluded to this show many times on the podcast before. Composed by Angelo Badalamenti in 1990, it is the magnificence of the Twin Peaks theme.
I had the Twin Peaks soundtrack on my computer when I was at university, and I used to listen to it a lot. This isn't the best track on the Twin Peaks soundtrack because the Laura Palmer theme's better.
The Laura Palmer theme is great. I prefer the theme tune. It's so intertwined with the show itself that it's so important.
I should say that I got into the music before I'd ever seen the TV show. Having not grown up with the telly, I heard the music before I ever saw the show.
Well, if that's true, I give you mad respect, but I just can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's true because so I watched Twin Peaks for the first time when I went to university. I've mentioned this before, how we had the sort of, you could share your iTunes library with anyone else in the same halls of residence. So I found it on somebody's iTunes. Really good. Like the musically, it's very, very interesting. And then you find out that the baritone guitar is David Lynch himself playing. And then when I watched the TV series, what I really like about this theme and what's really clever about it is that it starts off very similar to a lot of other sort of traditional 70s American TV shows. And the TV show deviates from that. And this, interestingly, is what Ramin Djawadi says he's trying to do with the Game of Thrones theme, which is like why it uses a cello to not sound like another fantasy thing. And Badalamenti's doing exactly the same thing with the Twin Peaks theme, in that he's deliberately sounding like every other 70s TV show, and then he's subverting the sound of it and going very dark, and then he's got those chords, and then those chords that are rising up that goes to that sort of euphoric bit with the strings. It's really clever, and as a piece of music out of the show, it works really well.
Yeah, I remember I put it on during a thunderstorm once, just the Twin Peaks theme, and it's got this kind of transcendence to it.
It's very post-rock. It's very post-rock.
5 minutes long as well, so it's not a quicker, and I think that works in the context. They don't quite play for the full 5 minutes on the show, but it goes on for a long time in the show. It's a long opening credits sequence. It's one of those that I never skip because it's so long that it's deliberately long, and it leaves you on edge because you're just really eager to get into the episode, and it's intentional.
I got a confession to make. I didn't watch Twin Peaks till 2016.
I've still never seen it.
I watched it around about 2016, and I've just been obsessed with it.
I watched it about 2006.
On DVD while I was on honeymoon in America, while me and the missus didn't really have fuck all to watch. We were staying in motels or whatever, staying in weird fucking places because we just hired a car and went wherever. We were staying in like log cabins in fucking Arizona and shit. And just jammed maybe the first 3 seasons, and
there are only 3 seasons now because there was the first season, the second season, the movie, and then the third season, wasn't there? Because I watched the first 2 seasons in 2006, but the second season goes on forever.
Yeah, there's too many filler episodes when David Lynch left.
But the thing that was always odd to me is because it's been referenced in music and pop culture so much, things would come up and go, oh, this is from this, and it was like Fire Come Walk With Me was like a hip-hop tune with I can't remember what the fucking band was now, but like everything would come up is like, oh, this is a reference to this is a reference to this band has taken their name from this particular thing. Mulholland Drive is a fucking hardcore band because Lynch
Audrey
has got
Horne
this particular movie and
are a
like,
hardcore band, punk band.
Yeah, and like everything just like finally came into place. It's like, oh, okay. It was like a whole slice of pop culture just landed in my lap all at once, and it was a lot to process.
Well, I think the appeal of Twin Peaks is that kind of, as you picked up on earlier, that kind of Americana is similar to a lot of stuff you would see of great depictions of America during the 50s, and then it's warped in this postmodern sense, often via clues that require the active participation of the viewer. and it's so clever in how it distorts what would. It was the first postmodern TV show, really, and I think the theme music is so synergized with the whole ethereal, dreamlike aesthetic. It's a really distinct piece of music, and it's so captivating. Even if you've never seen the show, it's
if you
like,
have to encapsulate like the experience of watching it to taking drugs or basically being a third party participant, very similar to The Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Yeah,
those kind of films, or like Eyes Wide Shut.
It's nowhere near as uplifting as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
No, but that's that kind of vibe, you know. Like you need to almost completely check out and completely inhabit the actor's character. And I kind of like those films or TV series where it's like you need to be invested, but it's going to take you on a wild ride.
I've never seen the show. I've only listened to the music because we were doing this. I could only find a really long version, so I just didn't know most of it was played anyway. But I can definitely see, it is a brilliant piece of music, and I can definitely see it's original enough and for it to be iconic. If you know what I mean, I can understand how this is one of those themes. I just haven't got any nostalgia for it because I've never seen it. But it is on the list.
Yeah, Twin Peaks is important because you can see a lot of the footprints for other TV shows after Twin Peaks.
And not even just TV shows, man, like fucking films, TV shows, music, art, everything. It's a really, really seminal piece of television. And even as like me, it's like I'm not a mad Lynch fan. I fucking love Lynch and I love Aronofsky, and I've watched a lot of their films and it's cool. But you need to just watch Twin Peaks to understand. It's the same reason why I say you need to listen to golden era hip hop, because it's like CNN for the hood. You need to understand those pretenses to understand where rest of everything is going. Do you understand what I mean?
I feel exactly the same about having cultural touchstones. It's why I went through about 10 years ago, I went and read all of Virginia Woolf, because Tom York was talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
We'll go to a 1970s classic, one of Dave's picks. This one is sung by Jim Gilstrap and Blinky Williams. It's from 1974. It's Good Times, and the theme from Good Times, which I know as a part of pop culture through the Dave Chappelle sketch where nobody knows what the words to Good Times are. I've never seen the show. It's a good piece of music. I mean, it's got that old gospel sound to it. It's a sing-along, and if it was into the show at the time, I'm sure I would love it, but it just doesn't have any resonance with me. Dave?
For exactly the reasons you said.
Hang on, I'll take this opportunity in Martin's absence to say, did I just hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, you did. 100%. So when I was at university, the Dave Chappelle show was in its infancy, and we started to watch a lot of old 70s, 60s, 80s black shows, and we were banging to golden age era hip-hop, so Fat Albert and the Crudes and old Red Fox and kind of any kind of Richard Pryor old stand-ups and that kind of thing. We were just hungry for black culture because we were so into hip-hop, we needed to fill in all the gaps, basically. So the Dave Chappelle show was like our Bible. It came out on a weekly basis. We had to download it off fucking LimeWire. I lived with some Nigerian guys at the time, and it came up on a panel show, basically, do you know the lyrics to Good Times? And this is what you're referring to. It was kind of a social slice to see if people had understood the lyrics, because obviously there's a black slant on the pronunciation and the themes of the show. But it's got a lot of cultural... I mean, if anyone's heard the phrase, what you talking about, Willis, which is basically a character from the show, it's...
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, it's referenced in the programme. you need to understand those kind of bases to understand what the fuck KRS is talking about, what the fuck Rakim's talking about, what the fuck anyone else is talking about if you're bang into your early 90s, late 80s hip-hop. So it was a television program which I looked at retrospectively, but the tune is a banger. It's really nice. I like it. It's a funk soul, probably orchestra-driven, ABC-funded kind of band production, and I like it. And it's referenced in a lot of the music, which I love, and that's really the only reason I've chosen it. I've not maybe watched 4 episodes. It's really not the television program that I'm interested in. It's more the kind of cultural influence of the music that I love.
Yeah, I get that. I personally would have gone for Different Strokes because I think that's a banger of the same kind of stature. But yeah, Different Strokes for different folks.
This is coming from the school of funk and soul that I can get behind. Like I had this discussion before. We've had this discussion before where I've said there are 2 types of funk and soul. And the political fire and brimstone funk and soul I can get behind, and I actually enjoyed this one. Never seen the show,
and it's cited of many, many people, Tom, to say I've seen this particular blackface on television when I was completely misrepresented, and it made me do X, or I felt empowered because I saw this television program. And even like the Cosbys, I know Bill Cosby's had a lot of controversy in his late years, but even that in his infancy showed, which wasn't portrayed on television, what a functional black family, even in a fictional state, for people to have a positive ilk from that, And I think that's powerful. It's good to have those things.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the cultural touchstones that me and Tom were referring to, and yeah, it's a song of cultural significance as a way of documenting what times were like in as close as possible to reality. Also references
New York, which was just a fucking powder keg of craziness during that period of time. It was being gentrified massively by Trump and everyone else that wanted to get in on massive developments and just wiping out projects and creating was going to be the crack epidemic. And yeah, it's just interesting for me. Like, it was highly commented on by the people that I listened to when I was coming up in the late 80s and early 90s, and to have some context was good. And I just think it's a banger of a song. I like it.
Changing the channel now to another one of my picks. It was the theme tune to Game On, a 1995 UK sitcom, which is kind of the UK equivalent of maybe Friends, I guess. And it's called Where I Find My Heaven by a band called Gigolo Aunts. The song initially was released as a single in 93, and then it was featured on the album Flippin' Out, and perhaps more significantly, used in Dumb and Dumber in 94. And then became, a year later, in 95, the theme tune to Game On. Now, the show is good. I dabbled into Game On, similarly to how I went for a period where I'd watch a lot of Men Behaving Badly. I think Men Behaving Badly was the better of the 2 shows. But Game On was good, and it certainly had... Don't get me wrong, Men Behaving Badly had a great theme tune with a great sax solo, but this was the superior theme song to those kind of mid-90s laddish comedies.
Right in the fucking heyday of me drinking and being a twat at my friend's house. And my parents or my friend's parents, I think, had bought the DVD box set and just said, oh, this is like exactly like you said, the UK Friends.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Before we went out in the pubs, we used to put it on, but it was basically like a UK commentary on sexual frustration and excessive drinking, which I enjoyed.
It was really, I remember it being hilarious back in the day because we were quite young when it was around, really.
I remember the sock gap and the giggle loop.
So obviously there's the original song, but I was trying to find the original theme so I could get an idea of the length and how it works as a theme music, you know what I mean? And in the end, I just ended up watching the first 2-3 episodes because they're all up on YouTube. And it's actually quite funny when you watch back now just how politically incorrect they are. Like, they just call each other puffs like it's nothing. Like, the first episode, I think it's Mandy, the female character.
Yeah, the Samantha Janice character, yeah.
Yeah. If the first episode is her having a black boyfriend, she's going on a date with a black guy, and then Matthew just having an absolute meltdown at the fact she's going to have a black guy. And you're like, wow, this isn't that long ago, you know? He's literally like, he's what? Yeah, it's really quite bad. Still a good show, but it hasn't aged gracefully.
Very, very early 90s UK indie. It sounds very much... It sounds very much like Delamitri, really.
Oh, it's not as good as Delamitri.
No, it's not.
But the song itself is really catchy. It's got good guitar work. That Where I Find My Heaven chorus is just an earworm, which is similar to why a lot of these songs are featured prominently on TV, because they're really catchy. And you watch the show, you sing the song afterwards because it's stuck in your head, and it does its job for that. I think it's up tempo, it's uplifting, and that's why it's used in Dumb and Dumber as well, because it's one of those, you know, when you get interludes in TV shows where you need to show the passage of time, but you don't want it to be a solemn mood. You want it to be like happening, immediate. That's what this song is.
It kind of reminds me, like, not necessarily the same, like, exact sound, I guess it didn't feel, but it's very much that wishy-washy 90s theme, like the Friends one, you know? Where, like, it is catchy and everyone remembers it, but I'd very rarely sit down and actually listen to it. Like, I'd very rarely be like, this is actually a good song. It's just, I don't know, I find it a little bland, this song. Interesting fact, actually, Friends, was going to be, the original theme for Friends was going to be Shiny Happy People.
Yeah.
By R.E.M. Did I listen to that? Did I hear that on this podcast? That's probably the sort of thing I would do.
Interesting fact.
I think I saw that when I was researching 91. I think I saw that fact.
Quite catchy, and you would know it, but it is just a bit meh. It's sort of a song where you're like, yeah, 5 out of 10. That's what I think anyway.
It obviously pales in comparison to our next 90s pick, Al, because... Let's go for one of yours. This was a 90s, but late 90s. Yeah. So 1999, performed by Jason Page. It's Gotta Catch 'Em All, the Pokemon thing.
Yeah. I thought I'd be walking into some hate with this one, so
an absolute out and out
really
banger. It's the same reason that Jason the Wheel Warriors is a fucking cracker.
It's just great, isn't it? Like, I will travel across the... Like, I could probably sing all of it now. No, I haven't watched the show in, like, 15 years, you know? Like...
Yeah, I haven't watched the show for a long time, but it made me want to gather up my Pokeballs and go and put some small creatures in them.
Oh, it's so good. Like, my friend, he actually got as a joke, like, around the time, you know, we liked Pokemon, but it was, you know, you wouldn't, you know, buy the soundtrack. But my friend's brother bought him it. And he actually showed me the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is really good. I'm ashamed to say, like, I could probably do most of the Pokey rap, like, to this day. Yeah, take a normal tab like Jigglypuff against a ghosted gang. Got a battle's real tough.
If only we had some way of recording this for posterity.
Oh, so good, like the Pokemon, man. It's just one of those songs where it's just like objectively, it's like probably not a good song.
Yeah, objectively, it's definitely not a good song.
I could travel far and wide.
To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause.
This is one of those tracks where you have to have nostalgia for it, and I don't have that, and so the song makes me cringe every time it comes on. It's painful to listen to.
To be a good kids TV show, it's got to have a bit of cringe factor. It's got to be a bit.
We were like 13 when this came out. Well, you're older than me.
This was an abs. Yeah, but you got to remember as well, like this.
We were teenagers when this came out.
All the games, all like. I mean, everyone had a Game Boy.
Yeah, but the Game Boy games were like 95. You know? This is like, the Game Boy games were like fine. That was 95. We were teenagers when this came out.
Whatever. When the show came out is when everyone started playing it. It doesn't matter when it came out. Like, no one played Pokemon in 95. You know what I mean?
Did.
Everyone played the games.
It's such a monster of a pocket monster, if you will, of a franchise that... yeah, you can't help but smile at the music. I've never been the biggest Pokemon fan. I dabbled in Pokemon Red and Blue back in the day, and I did collect the cards for about 6 months and then grew out of them because I...
It's kind of like a dirty subject, like it was to paint Warhammers or collect collectible card games back in the day, or football stickers or whatever. It's a Japanese fucking sway of culture which involves a beautiful art, which is manga.
Hentai, yeah.
Fuck you, Alex.
It's in the same bracket as Dragon Ball Z. Everyone loves Dragon Ball Z.
Next up, we are going to discuss a song that is a very well-known song outside of the context in being used as a TV theme. But it was the theme from House from 2004 to 2012. It was also on the album Mezzanine in 1998. It is Massive Attack with Teardrop. Tom?
I mean, undeniable banger, what can I say?
I have no argument against it being an undeniable banger because it's a great song.
Like, promise, I've actually watched every episode of House. It's one of those shows that me and my girlfriend binged into the end. And at no point did I ever think that's a good theme song. I always thought it was just a bit crap and generic. Like a phone advert or something.
What?
And then the fact... And then you go, oh, it's Massive Attack. It's like, well, a Massive Attack can't be that good then, because it's not very good theme music. It's not a very good theme song. Like, maybe the whole 5-minute track's great,
Whoa.
but as a theme song, it wasn't that good. It was all right.
Can we calm down for a minute and I'll explain to Alex why it's a good song?
All songs need an explanation why it's good. Yeah, everyone knows that's what makes a good song.
I know you like fucking hard and fast, straight to the fucking ball bag, and I appreciate that. That's awesome where I'm at. But James DeVale, the fucking Mad Bunch, White Lines and Massive Attack were the fucking tits. And they were the beginning of a trip-hop movement which made the UK great for a really good mid-period of the 2000s. And Teardrop was probably one of their, along with maybe God Is a DJ or like We Become One by fucking other rave artists or kind of trip hop artists, or even more so like Portishead, a great UK resurgence of electronic music. So yes, it's not a heavy fucking puncher, so don't go in on it like a motherfucker. It's a slow burner. I mean, it's the same sort of time where like Ronnie Size is doing Brown Paper Bag and getting Mercury nominations. It's even he's doing like drum and bass, and they're doing it on a chill tip. Everyone's smoking a bit of weed. They're coming out the back end of having a fucking crack epidemic in the UK. So everyone's taking it down a peg. Mad Professor's doing some fucking things. It's before we really have like Mark being Blade and that resonation of UK hip hop. It's in a beautiful position in UK electronic music where everything's just taking a fucking chill pill. So yes, it's not a fucking banger, but it is beautiful in its inception.
I don't particularly dislike Massive Attack. I think they're okay. I'm not a massive fan, I will admit. It was one of those. It was when the list came up and it just had. I didn't know who it was even by. It just had the house theme. Like that was the list we got on our group. And my first instinct was, really? It was all right. It wasn't that good. Like, and I could barely remember it. So then I really listened to it, and I was like, well, it's okay. And then as soon as I saw today it was a Massive Attack song, it made more sense why it got picked.
Getting Fry fucking you up because he's chosen a Massive Attack song rather than a house song. I imagine he's not a massive house fan. He's more of a Massive Attack fan.
To be fair, I did really enjoy House, but I am more of a Massive Attack.
House is okay. In every episode, it turns out it's lupus. And then there was actually one episode where it was lupus, and everyone was like, no.
I got no problem with the actor. Like, Jeeves and Worcester was a banger. I'm saying just like Massive Attack.
is really one of the fucking gems we need to hold on to from the early 90s in this career.
And to now, they're still releasing good stuff now.
To be honest, I think we covered all of this in the album, like 1991 album year we did. We talked about Massive Attack for ages. I mean,
exactly.
I get why culturally they were so good and that, but like as a theme song, I thought it was a bit dull.
What's interesting about this, okay, so going back to it as a theme song, right? Not to, so Bryan Singer, apparently, the story goes, heard this Massive Attack track and decided that he wanted it to be a theme song for a TV show before he decided on the TV show House. It's a great track. Liz Fraser's voice is beautiful as always, and actually she's singing in English. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but she's not singing in made-up words, which is a stretch for her.
Well, there's a point to be made with mid-90s UK house and dance music, which has kind of been dismissed as like cheesy shit, and that pisses me off. I think Maxi Jazz is as much of a poet as Wordsworth or fucking Shaun Ryder or anyone else. There's a real dismissive snootiness with fucking house music from that period, which annoys me. But there's some fucking great artists from that time which get snubbed, and they don't get the fucking credit that they're due. Even like Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac. That's a fucking banger. It should have been the fucking Mercury nominated for the track. I don't give a shit. So, like, there's a lot of UK artists that don't get the fucking kudos, and it pisses me off. And Massive Attack is one of them.
Really? I think they get quite a lot of praise.
Yeah, I think they're critically acclaimed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say at all they've been written off or like they were under supported. I guess like everyone's heard of Massive Attack, haven't they? Like even someone like I barely listen to anything, but I know the name. Like I know who they are. I know there are going to be people who like are die hard into them, but I don't know. I just thought as a theme it was just a little bit. You know, it'd be like if they used the same song in like a bank advert or something.
I get that.
Yeah, a lot of like those kind of like chilled out Ibiza guys got put under like advertisements. Like 07 did the same fucking shit. Like 07 got put under a load of financial banking adverts and were completely under-respected. But
I really liked 07 as well.
One TV theme that we've omitted from the list, which I think could well have been on here, that was then later repurposed on bank adverts, was Crockett's theme from Miami Vice by Jan Hammer. That could have been on this list, and I think, it was later repurposed and it didn't sound out of place in a bank advert, but I still think that's a banger. But to agree with Al in a certain context is that I haven't seen the show, so I'm judging this song as a piece of music. So I think it's a great chill out kind of trip hop.
When you listened to it, did you listen to the song in its entirety, or did you put in?
Yeah, I listened to it from the album Mezzanine.
So you didn't put in like house theme music and watch like the 30-second clip on YouTube. So like if you judge it on that, it's no Pokemon.
Next up on the list is one of yours, Dave, and this is the 1986 show Bread, and the theme music from Bread, sung by David Mackey, to kind of doo-wop throwback 80s working class shawaddy waddy sound.
I liked this one. This felt like a theme song to me.
I personally thought this was the worst song on the list.
oh my god. Right, okay. I was just about to say, before I even comment, I'm going to throw it out. So, Alex, you're on board. What do you think is the worst going? Thomas?
On the list.
It's definitely not the worst.
Never seen the show.
It's not the worst on the list. What I wrote, listened to, because I'd never seen the show. I tried to watch the show, but I didn't like it. My problem with this particular track, and it's a problem I have with at least one of the other tracks that hasn't come up yet, is that there's nothing wrong with the song itself, but it's a sound that has been amalgamated into musical theatre in the 90s, and so it ends up sounding like something that Andrew Lloyd Webber would write.
It just felt really naff to me.
To be honest, I don't particularly like the song, but as a theme music for the show it's doing, it's absolutely perfect. So, like, as a theme song, I think it's brilliant. Like, to be honest, I haven't seen the show. I've just seen the picture of the show on the YouTube.
When I was younger,
I'm much older than you motherfuckers.
Hey, you're like 2 years older than me.
Bread was a program which either got repeated or was on terrestrial television when I was a kid. Either way, I don't really give a fuck. It was something which the theme tune would come on. It was, probably was on a Sunday. But the theme tune would come on, it was maybe 4 in the afternoon, let's say that. So the theme tune would come on, and I'd know that my parents liked the show, and it was something that we could all gather around and have leftovers from Sunday lunch or whatever and fucking watch the television program. It would all be cool. And the general ethos of the show was it was a working class family from Liverpool. They all had this like porcelain chicken which they all put fucking money into. Everybody was supposed to put X amount of money in it a week for housekeeping for the mother of the house or whatever. I always kind of liked bizarrely that like antithesis and amalgamation of family life. And the theme tune just reminded me, oh, okay, we've got an hour before I've got to go and do my fucking homework, which the next theme tune, which I haven't fucking listed, is the Antiques Roadshow. When the Antiques Roadshow comes on, shit, it's a fucking Sunday. I have to do my homework before I go
Fun
back.
is over.
Fun is over. I feel sick to my fucking stomach, and I have to do some homework before I got to go to school on a Monday. And the Antiques Roadshow is the only thing between me and being sick all over Monday.
I had a similar feeling for the theme tune to The Last of the Summer Wine.
It's the same.
It's like an alarm that goes off in my brain that says, okay, this is the end of fun.
That's exactly the same with me and the Antiques Roadshow. But Bread was the show before the Antiques Roadshow. And Bread was like, oh, baby, you got a fucking hour to chill with all the leftovers of Sunday lunch. And it's a cool theme tune. And it's all like family, blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as the fucking Antiques Roadshow comes in, bang, fun is over.
Next up on the list is another one of my picks. This is the iconic, and I do not use that term loosely, the iconic X-Files theme by Mark Snow, originally from the 1993 start of the series. We talked earlier about shows that you don't skip the theme music. Every time I watch the X-Files, I do not skip those opening credits because they set the tone so well. I'm one of those people that's obsessed with true crime documentaries on YouTube, and I watch them all. And any piece of music, the video would be instantly made better by the insertion of the X-Files theme, because it just creates that atmosphere.
If you hadn't picked this, I'd have picked this. And I'm sure like Martin might have picked this, or like it's just great. It's everyone knows it. It's so iconic.
So I'm currently rewatching it right now. I'm on season 2.
Without nostalgia, it may be a tough sell now. Like I know people love it, and I it's actually probably my favourite show of all time. But if you revisit season 1, it's aged. Some episodes are proper bad. Like that one when they go into the AI system in the mansion or something. That's just awful.
Yeah.
They've got some proper tragic episodes.
The bendy guy that can go through the fucking holes in the
Squeeze.
grates.
No, Squeeze holds up.
This track came out was released as a single on virtually the same day as Children by Robert Miles.
Well, yeah.
As a piece of 90s dance music, I would argue that Children has aged better than this has.
Children wasn't on a theme tune, that's the point.
Yeah, it was written specifically for this show. Mark Snow did all the music for the X-Files, and it's a great soundtrack. When I'm watching it back, the music, it does kind of date it, but it dates it in a good way, I think, because the show's got a certain way it's shot it's limited by the period it's in. It can't go full CGI on these massive monsters. It has to stay within its budget, and I think the fact that the music it emits that era, it keeps the show together, and I think it helps you believe it. I think it's great. It's also one of those where if you played it to someone who's never seen the show, they would know that it's the X-Files theme.
I would go as far to say this is the best TV theme song of all time. That's how much I like the X-Files theme music. But it's probably because I love the X-Files, so it's like most things in this list. If you like it, you're probably going to like this theme song more. You know, it's one of those.
Yeah, the first season is dated. Season 2 is less dated, and from then on, I don't think it really suffers that much with it. But some of the individual episodes are so tightly scripted. It's fantastic. And I actually think the acting in it is ahead of its time as well. I think that David Duchovny's performance is really great. And I think that I don't think they give Scully as interesting things to do as they do Mulder, which is a shame because Gillian Anderson is a great actress. Yeah, they're both excellent in it.
Yeah, David Duchovny definitely portrays crazy because it would be like you don't mind someone being a complete conspiracy theorist if there's logic to it, but it would be literally like, oh, the light bulb blew in the other room. It's probably werewolves. Nothing to base it on or anything.
Yeah, the show works that it acknowledges that Mulder is crazy and has Scully to bounce off of. If it didn't have that and it just didn't make sense, it wouldn't be as good.
Who's the floppy-haired romantic comedy motherfucker from this country?
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, yeah. He got caught getting a blowjob of a hooker in the mid-90s or late 90s, and it completely fucked his career. If he'd gone completely double back and done the same thing that David Duchovny did, with he just embraced his kind of sleazy shagger drinking vibe, he would have done so much better.
Dirty Hugh.
Yeah, he made Californication, which was basically the show where he got to
just be
all
himself.
the best-looking actresses. Yeah, I gave up on Californication after about 4 seasons because it was literally the same thing every season.
Did Duchovny claim he was a sex addict? If you turn it into a disease, you get away with it.
With Dave's final pick of the evening, we've got for another 70s classic. There's very much a theme to Dave's choices. Very punchy. So, Get In and Out, Deliver the Job, theme music to the Jeffersons this time, sung by Janet Dubois, who died last year, sadly. Fantastic voice. This is from 1975.
So yeah, just another classic. It was quoted in Nelly's Batter Up, I think, in the early 2000s. It's a black television show in the 90s. No, I think would even be in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Jeffersons was the 70s, 1975.
Which would have been probably ABC, I would imagine. So a terrestrial television channel for black America where they just weren't represented in any other culture or channel. A banging fucking theme tune. The only reason I know it or give a shit about it is because of hip-hop or soul music or comedy, which retrospectively quotes it. Just again, another good one. I can't help the fact that I like funk and soul and gospel music.
Well, no, it's a pretty good song. I think it's a pretty good theme.
It's ultimately about musical tastes in the end. So whilst these songs may appear insignificant, written for purpose 1.5 minute songs, they're actually quite important.
No, if you want to be like a complete and utter deep diver into late 90s funk, soul and hip-hop, then you need to know these cultural references.
Tom, your final pick of the evening is the theme from Veronica Mars, which is a show I've never seen.
No, neither have I.
I was hoping you were going to fill me in because my notes just say it was from 2004 to 2007. The song was originally, it's by the Dandy Warhols. It's called We Used to Be Friends, and it was originally from the album Welcome to the Monkey House from 2003. Later used on this show, and I've never seen it. And I did watch this in the context of the intro. So I listened to the song, preferred it as a song, then watched it in the intro, had no idea what the show is about. It just looks about teenage kids at school. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah, at first I was like, why is Tom watching this shit?
I picked this because I was looking for TV intros to pick, and it was Dandy Warhols, and I thought Martin was going to be on, and he'd have a little hard-on about the Dandy Warhols because they're one of his favourite bands of all time.
It's okay as a song. I quite like it as a song.
Oh, see, I really enjoy it. Like, it's not the Dandy Warhols' best song.
Instead, you've got me, and I've got Softy because this song is shite. Just absolute 90s trash. The first thing I thought of went, whatever, it's just crap. It's so awful.
The Dandy Warhols did it better than a lot, but there were a lot of these bands coming out of America in the early 2000s who had this sort of really... They sounded cool. Everything was quite laid back. It never really went that heavy. And it was just cool music. And actually, the Dandy Warhols' best album my favourite of their albums is the 13 Tales from Urban Bohemia, which is a perfect pop album. It's the one with Bohemian Like You.
Did they just give everyone a record deal? They wore a scarf or something?
I have no strong opinions either way on the Dandy Warhols. I'm not familiar with the band, really. I'm not familiar with the show. So I don't have a lot more to add. So we'll move on. For Al's final pick of the evening, it was actually 1991 in which the show came out. It is recorded by Doug Katsaros, and it is the theme tune to Bucky O'Hare.
Bucky O'Hare.
Which is... And it's a triumphant piece of music that really takes me back to my childhood, because Bucky O'Hare was an obscure, I think it was Canadian, and it was an export. Only one series was ever made, I think. But it's really great, and it's everything you need from an early 90s kind. And the theme tune, you don't even need to have heard the music or seen the show. And
doesn't matter. I love the show. I had the toys. It's absolute and utter perfection. There needs to be nothing more.
Yeah, I think as a show, it's probably not as good as the likes of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The likes of what we're talking about, which is basically like massive advertisement, toy campaign, good theme tune.
Yes.
It did the best of everyone.
The Mega Drive game was great.
The toys were wicked.
Every cartoon around this time had a great theme song. I mean, you got to look at like Tailspin or DuckTales. They all had great theme songs. Gummy Bears, which was later performed seriously by Alicia Keys on piano, and that soulful version is amazing. They're all great.
Like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, that'd be another one.
I'd never heard the track before, I'd never seen the cartoon before, I didn't know it existed.
So we are finally at the end of the list of random TV themes that you should all go and listen to. And the final one I'm going to end with is a song that has a particular significance to me because of something that happened, which I'll tell you about. The song is Here It Goes, by Coolio, and it is from the Keenan and Kel show. It started in '96 on Nickelodeon. Now, the Keenan and Kel show itself is Pandora's box of weird references. You go back to it now, and it's not that it's dated. It just seems from another planet. It doesn't feel of human origin, that show. And the theme tune that accompanies it is a banging piece of 90s hip-hop that's only like a minute and a half long from Coolio. I saw Coolio live in a small bar in Plymouth, and he played this song as part of his set, which is only like 6 songs long. He didn't even do See You When You Get There, which was disappointing. So I then went outside the bar. I shared a smoke with Coolio, and we talked about Stevie Wonder and how he worked with him to create Gangsta's Paradise, which is, of course, based off of Pastime Paradise by Stevie Wonder.
Good. I think it's good. I love Keenan and Kel. It's good. It's a great choice. I think it's really good. I used to love it when I was a kid. When you said it, I was like, yep, excellent, done, perfect. That's a good theme, originally written by an artist who was credible, I guess. Unfortunately, fell on hard times.
Perhaps why he ended up talking to me on a street in Plymouth. We had a couple of nominations from Twitter, so keep them coming, at CAC Sessions Pod. Andy Cox has said, too many to give a favourite, but special mentions for The Persuaders, The Dave Allen Show, Starsky and Hutch, which is great, and Stranger Things.
Stranger Things and Starsky and Hutch, yeah, I know those ones. I'm sorry, I can't really comment on the other one, but yeah, those are good. Stranger Things just came out of nowhere, don't it?
Oh, I really enjoyed it.
That's brilliant. I actually downloaded it and listened to it in my car for a while. They got some...
Yeah, the soundtrack's far better than the show. I'm not a massive fan of the show.
It lost its way by season 3. I really like the show. It lost its way around season 3, but I am looking forward to season 4.
Well, I made quite a lot of money out of DJing. nights based upon Stranger Things in the early days, if you remember, where we'd have come to Rob Law.
It's a good theme to write to do a DJing set around, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of post-punk in the show.
Yeah, it was basically a really good excuse to do like gothic 80s stuff, so like Cure, fucking all that kind of stuff. It was easy. It was nice. And everyone else would normally like furrow their brow at that, but because it was under the guise of Stranger Things, it was good. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Stranger Things is one of those, similarly to Game of Thrones, how it becomes culturally significant. Look at Game of Thrones, if you only have to then listen to Line of Duty and the theme music on Line of Duty. It's exactly the same song, but Line of Duty is just the piano. It's the same melody. It's very similar. So it just goes to show how much a TV show can impact the way other TV shows choose their music. And I think that's why it's significant that, Dave, you've talked a lot about hip-hop and how hip-hop owes a lot to these TV themes. So I think ultimately tonight, if we've discovered anything that's particularly pertinent, that I want it to be that, yeah, these are silly songs and we've had a lot of fun discussing TV shows and the various uses of music and whether the shows are good, but I think they are significant in that they do have a big effect on culture. So that's why it's important for us to touch on that.
Some of the songs which I really, really hold dear over the years have been because I've heard them, first of all, in a film. I've had a visual accompaniment. So like, great songs have been cemented in me because they've been also delivered to me visually in a great scene. So like, I can never really separate the two. So there's Vietnam films I've watched where like James Brown tracks have been fucking played over the speakers in Vietnam camps in, I don't know, Good Morning Vietnam or whatever, and that's the first time I've heard them. You think, oh, that's fucking awesome. But separated outside of a normal film setting, then it's probably not the greatest introduction to that track. But
I think another kind of episode that, I mean, we've done movie soundtracks last season. Something we may be able to come back to in the future is potentially video game soundtracks, because while I was researching this, there were a lot of video games that I thought could be discussed on tonight, but I kind of want to park that, and we may revisit that as a third soundtrack episode that we do some point in the future.
Well, see, it's a very simple episode because it's collated soundtrack for a video game, it's GTA. Composed soundtrack for a video game is No Man's Sky. Done. I don't think anyone can argue with that point, can they? Oh, maybe Tony Hawk.
I would say that Final Fantasy VIII has a lot to say about that.
Minecraft's really good.
What are we going to discuss on the next episode that we record, guys?
top 3 harmonies.
I don't know.
That's too broad.
Undeniable clangers. So, songs from critically acclaimed artists that nobody else likes or loves.
We could do bangers and clangers.
Okay, yeah.
As it were.
2 bangers, 2 clangers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good episode, because then we could fill the banger list, and it will encourage good old-fashioned arguments, which I think we're so good at on this podcast. I'm going to get none of mine voted for. It's going to be like my first episode on a podcast all over again.
It's all right. Mine didn't get voted for either, and I picked possibly the most obvious choice to suit everybody's taste.
This seems an appropriate time to wrap up this evening, so thank you very much for listening. We've been the Cacophony Sessions. I've been Dan. Please remember to follow us on Twitter at CAC Sessions Pod. We are also asking if you could subscribe to us on Apple Music Podcasts, and send us your comments on Facebook or Twitter. Get involved in the conversation. What are your undeniable bangers? What are your undeniable clangers? We'll be a few weeks away, and then we'll be back with some more. Bye!
Peace, motherfuckers.
Stay funky.
Bye! The train to me is my cause. Pokemon!